Today is the full moon day of the 4th lunar month, which is also known as Buddha's birthday. I decided to have a birthday celebration ceremony at the headquarters located in Renton City, Washington State. In today's program is as follows. I will mainly focus on the preaching of his birthday ceremony, and then we will also bathe the Buddha. However, I need to release the 10 precepts of Buddha's novice monks for Mrs. Diu Tian. She received the precepts and practiced short-term monkhood in Australia for a few dozen days to transfer the merit to her mother, whom had passed away in Vietnam. Then I will begin the preaching. I now relieve you from not sleeping on a luxurious bed, not eating at inappropriate times, not wearing cosmetic, not singing, not dancing, nor wearing any jewelry, not having any adultery, and retaining the money. However, I do not release you from the 5 precepts. 6 precepts and the 10 goods I pray to transfer the merit of your practicing short-term monkhood toward your mother's soul. May she be reborn in the Pure Land of Amatet Buddha. Nam Mô Công Đức Lam Bồ Tát. On this Buddha's birthday celebration, I will give a thorough lecture on his birthday, and then there will be a bathing ceremony. I will preach for an hour, and Buddha's birthday ceremony will also be for an hour. I want to emphasize that we need to know about Buddha's birthday. Every year you come to bathe the Buddha, but Sakmuni Buddha himself is not dirty. 2,600 years ago, several dragons had already bathed him. However, the sutra said that in the Kupvastu citadel, he has never been born and has never passed under the Talala tree. This is about our imperishable Buddha's nature. I want to collect all the praying scrolls after this preaching. Uncle Nga, please collect all of them and give them to me. We were taught to bathe the Buddha in the temple, but that is simply a form. We must understand the important part, which is the meaning of the ceremony, to have merit. If not, we just lose a whole day for nothing. As you see, most of the temples don't do the ceremony of Buddha's birthday. They only do it on the weekends. Isn't that right? Before the pandemic, or even just during the pandemic season, I organized the ceremony right on his birthday. I'd like to introduce this Buddhist follower who had just moved up here from California. He just knew about today's event because Diu Pham failed to inform him. He heard this area is cheaper than California. So he rented out a house for $4,000 in California and realized renting a house here is only $2,200 a month. That way he can save $1,800 every month. He said it was so lonely here, and I told him that he could slowly forget it. He lives close by our temple, perhaps a 5-minute drive. Recently, he was planning to sell his house in San Jose. He was about to complete the sale, but he stopped because he was afraid to sell his house, and he will never be able to buy it back if he wants to return to San Jose. He's a graduate from UC Berkeley with a computer engineering degree. A few years before me, and he went to work for decades already. I became a Buddhist monk. When it comes to disciple, he only has one. And I have a few thousand. I say this for fun only. He said, "It's so empty here." Well, because of the pandemic, if I announce it publicly, it would be too crowded and we have no seats. Another reason is because the temple is preparing to be built. The city demands the temple to be taken down because they feel it is not safe. The paperwork is still complicated because of the sewer line issue. Yesterday, Pham went to a meeting regarding the sewer line. We assured the sewer line would be connected to the main sewer line, but there isn't one. Our sewer line has to tie into the neighbors. We now have to wait for the neighbors to give permission. The city no longer allows us to use the septic tank. We are going through many stages of paperwork. I now send my greetings to all Buddhist followers online. I am Master Thich at the headquarters of Tam Nguyen Temple, located in Renton. Today is Buddha's birthday, which is also the full moon day of April. I want you to know that when I was a child, Buddha's birthday was not on the full moon day of April, but on April the 8th. According to the Brahmin calendar, full moon is April 8th. Later, over 100 countries that practice Buddhism gathered together and chose Buddha's birthday will fall on the full moon of April, according to the history of Buddhism found in Ananda University. You should know that when Buddha was still alive, there was no bathing ceremony for the Buddha. The Buddha's bathing rituals were done after Buddha passed on to China. After the Buddha had passed away, his followers remembered him and they did the bathing rituals. In fact, it is a ceremony to show our thanks to Buddha because he found a way to liberate sentient beings from samsara. He had practiced several kalpa. According to the sutra, a kalpa is as long as all the sands of the Ganges River will multiply by 1,000,000 zeros. The Buddha practiced for that long to find the path to liberation from samsara. We now see that it is very simple. If you want to be free from samsara, you can practice Zen. Practice the sixth perfection. Practice the Pure Land. Practice Tantra. Or practice the Lotus Dharma. And practice other dharmas that were left behind by the Buddha. The Buddha was the one who found a way out of the firehouse. You and I are still in the firehouse. Indeed, this period is in the house of fire. The United States is a heaven realm compared to other countries. And it had also have been devastated. Don't you think that the pandemic is over? I had a disciple who was married to an Indian American. called to inform me that her husband is now dead. He already had 2 vaccine injections and worked as an engineer for Microsoft in the United States. He flew back to India for his mother's funeral, and he died in India. The Indian doctor tested and said that he was infected with a new virus variant. This new strand of COVID-19 has not affected the current COVID-19 vaccine. Did you know that this variant virus broke out in Napa, in Thailand, in Cambodia, and also in Vietnam? I took the vaccine so I can travel to do Buddha's work, performing supportive recitation when my disciples are at their final hours. Some doctors said that this vaccine is only valid for 6 months, not for a year. Now, new variants have exploded in India. My Indian American friend who flew back to India to attend his mother's funeral was killed by a new COVID. So that's very sad news for this pandemic. We are now in the Dharma ending period, as the Buddha said. There would be 7 years of plague, 7 years of war, and then 7 years of hunger. We now only have 2 years of plague. Only 2 of the 21 years has passed. Do not rejoice when you see the value of the house increasing. We are now being tricked. In 2019, the contractor estimated $200 per square foot for commercial property. We plan to build a new 3,100 square feet temple. So I calculated it would cost $600,000 to $700,000. I think we can do it. But when I went to Dr. Jung's funeral, his son said it is now at 285 square feet for residential. Commercials are now more than $300 a square feet. I didn't believe it, and I went to Home Depot to ask for a 4x8 plywood. They said it used to be $11, and now it's priced at $63. So the price has increased by 500%. He said a 50-year-old 1,000 square feet house in Seattle was 3,000 square feet of land is about $600,000. The architect said houses are now worth $600 a square feet. I went to California to talk to the Buddhist nun at Nguyen Pagoda. She also said that the contract estimated $600 per square feet. The architect said $300 a square feet if you do it today. Next week, it will be different. I thought it was going to cost $600,000 to build the temple. But now it will cost $1.5 million. The house prices now continue to rise. I've been in contact with people in real estate, and they told me that there isn't any houses on the market for more than a week. In the past, when the economy was normal, it took 1 month to 2 months to sell a house. Now, there are no houses listed for more than a week. Currently, Kings County of the state has about 400,000 real estate agents, but there are only 50 houses for sale. Yu Pham said that if you want to sell a house listed at 500,000, you have to pay 550 to 600,000 with cash, not with a loan from the bank. Now the demand is high because the price has just rised. The price rises up like that because the Democratic Party is selling your money. For example, in the past, you paid $5 for a watermelon, but now the price is $9 to $10. Now everything is doubled and tripled. Now the government gives you $600, then $1,400, but the price of the house is also very high. Uncle Nga laughs because his house is worth $1.2 million. He is laughing because he hasn't sold it yet. If he has to pay taxes of $1 million, not $400,000 to $500,000. In addition, no one wants to work because the unemployment benefits are higher than wages. 2 weeks ago, I went to change a tire. There was one mechanic and 5 cars were waiting. So the shop could only change one wheel. I had to go to the regular Mexican shop in order to change all 4 tires. The price is too high right now. Don't be happy to see the price of your house go up. People are racing to buy houses to keep the value of money because real estate will increase in value with inflation. I haven't gone to the market for a long time. I took $100 to buy vegetables and I thought it would be a lot, but I could only buy a little. Everything is so expensive. Now food has increased several times. In the current economic situation, the aviation industry is also dead. The good industry is also dead. The real estate industry is also dead. The nail industry is dead. The hairdressing is also dead. My disciples told me that they used to make more than $10,000 a week. Now they only make $2,000 to $3,000. This pandemic has not stopped. Someone asked me if I will have a retreat at the youth center. And I said it all depends on the governor. When the governor opens up, I will organize the retreat. For example, if Mrs. Mai cooks at the youth center and dies from the pandemic, will her husband forgive me or not? Because of me, his wife had died even though she was vaccinated twice. We are performing this ceremony to show our appreciation to the Buddha. We are living in very terrible times right now. When I went to a few funerals during the pandemic, only Mr. Dung's funeral was very fortunate to have a large crowd. He was very blessed. I went to San Jose for Hai's mother's funeral. She was also blessed. Normally, at the Oak Hill funeral, the funeral are done outdoors under a canopy. However, this time they allowed us to go inside the funeral home. Do not assume the situation is better because you saw that. Before the pandemic, Social Security was enough to spend, but now it is not enough. Your Social Security's check is only enough for half a month. There is no production in the United States at all, but numerous illegal immigrants are rushing to California and Texas. Every day our money is being stolen. Where does the federal government get the money? They keep printing money. For example, if you have $100,000 in bank, you can buy a house in the past because the government keeps printing the money. You can only buy a mobile home. As a matter of fact, a mobile home now costs $200,000. Ask this fellow, and he will tell you a mobile home now costs $350,000 to $400,000 in San Jose. A townhouse in San Jose runs around $800,000 to $850,000. So people in California move back to Texas or Florida In my opinion, I think the pandemic has not come down. It transformed from one pandemic to another, but there is no work. There will be a lot of layoffs from school because students learning online. That being said, we are at the end of life, and if you get sick with COVID, you will not receive the supportive recitation. Buddha left behind the meditation sect, but now you can't meditate like this original disciple to end this cycle of birth and death. Yesterday, I made a phone call to a few Buddhist followers to inform them that I would celebrate Buddha's birthday tomorrow, but there was no online announcement. The Buddhist follower asked why I did not and responded that the Washington government has not opened up yet, so if anybody knows, they can go. That fellow said that she planned to go, but she needed a driver. Therefore, she wanted to know the duration of the ceremony. I told her it would take about 2 hours. She then asked if food will be good or not. I said that all the cookware had been removed, but Mrs. Thong planned to serve vermicelli and bamboo shoots. Unfortunately, vermicelli is too expensive, so she would serve flour paste only because flour is cheaper, and all she needs to do is stir it with water and serve. The Buddhist followers then replied that she couldn't go because she's too busy and the ceremony would be too long and there wouldn't be any good food like they were before the pandemic. Do you think Buddha will be sad to hear that? The Buddha studied and practiced the vows of Bodhisattva for several 100 million years to find the way to save sentient beings. But we complain about reciting the sutra because of our tiredness. Mrs. Thich Chan must thank Buddha and God that you can still walk. Imagine if you can't walk. Will you be sad? She was the one who always showed up first before the pandemic, whether it was cold or hot. She sat outside on the porch to wait for the temple to open. Recently, she fell and now could not walk. That is when she realized that it was a privilege to be able to go to the temple. So we have to think about Buddha's sacrifices. He left behind his Dharma for us to practice. The simplest method is practicing the 5 precepts. If there was no Buddha, we would kill many lives of the animal to feed to ourselves. Because of the no-killing precepts, you are hesitant to kill an ant or mosquitoes. So even smashing the mosquitoes and reciting rebirth Dharma mantra, the karma will follow us like a shadow. Because of practicing the no-killing precepts, you would find a broom to sweep the bugs out. If there was no Buddha, we would create countless evil karma. If you didn't make a precept against stealing, how bad would we be? The temple is the place where Buddhist followers come to think about Buddhist sacrifices for many years. Being born as a human, we have the privilege of being able to listen to Dharma. We must take advantage of our time as humans to practice and learn karma. Human life is only around 100 years old. In this assembly, Di Utrang is 81 years old, Uncle Nga is 75, and as young as me, and I have already reached 70. You see, life passes quickly as lightning. A new baby was born on April 30th, 1975. Now is 46 years old. As you remember, when I came to Gak Hong Temple, Liu Trong just took care of her husband's funeral and returned to Vietnam. When she returned from Vietnam in 2003, she was sitting at the table, and it has been 17 to 18 years now. You see, time goes by like a flashlight. If you bring an animal here, can it understand Dharma? Of course not. It can't escape animal life. So if you become an ant, you will be very fragile. Those infected with ant infectiousness will find ants' life very fragile. The no-killing precepts restrains us from killing karma. Let's talk about the no-stealing precepts. Don't you get your stuff stolen at the temple or not? Buddhist followers are those who keep the precepts of not stealing. Why does every woman in here keep your purse very close? The third precept is not having adultery, but Buddhist followers commit adultery or not. The fourth precept is not to consume intoxicating substances. And the fifth precept is not to lie. We violate almost all of the 5 precepts. Someone asks if the dog, it's so smart, why didn't it go inside the human womb, but instead become a dog? A Varnamo master said, because we still try to commit, even though we know it is wrong. Therefore, some of the sentient beings are wearing fur and horns. Once it becomes an animal, it won't be able to recite the sutra. Aren't you happy if your dog or cat can now bow to the Buddha? People post clips of their dogs and cats bowing the Buddha. You have to think that just because you are healthy this year, that doesn't mean you will be able to go to the temple next year. So please utilize this opportunity to practice Buddhist Dharma.